Yeah. Hate me 'cause I tell you the truth. Maybe your friends are confused. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Go ahead and go. Baila, baila, baila. Go. Baila, baila, baila.
Blogger, artist, stewardess, rebel, DJ, outlaw, engineer, scholar, fashion blogger. I feel like a lot of people don't read it right, or they don't get it. They just don't know. Like, an antisocialite is not antisocial. Like, you see us out, right? Yeah, we're out. We just in the cut. You're not gonna get everything at once from us. We're not showing it all. We are on the scene. What we represent is just basically like the bridge between the culture and the scene. What's up? You are tuned into the Antisocialites podcast. It's your girl Jessie.
And it's your girl Vina.
And today we have CEO and co-founder of Miss Jessie's Miko Branch.
Hey,
how are you?
Pretty clean.
Very good. Glad to be here.
Natural hair extraordinaire. We love your product. And we thank you for bringing us some more replenishment.
And the book. Don't forget about the book.
Yes.
Yes.
And the book.
So,
welcome to Florida.
You know, it's so good to be here. I'm a native New Yorker, and right around this time in New York, it's freezing cold, so I'm glad to be here right now.
Appreciating the weather a little bit?
Very much so.
while we were getting started, I'm like, okay, how long have you been here? And like, how has that transition been from New York to Miami?
So I've been in New York for over 4 decades, so it's about time for a change for me, just period. And as I was telling you, it's cold in New York. I know New York like the back of my hand, so I'm ready for change. Here in Florida, particularly Miami, there's a good amount of New Yorkers here, so I feel at home. But then also because of the weather and because of like the nice mix of cultures, I feel like I'm somewhere different at the same time, so it works.
I can agree with that. I haven't been to New York City or New York period. Farthest north I've been is Washington D.C. But I'm a West Coast girl. I'm from California, so I'm meaning to get up there. But as far as business wise, what made you come down here?
Well, my sister passed in 2014, so that just opened my mind up in so many different ways. And I think in order, I came down here personally. But then, you know, with the humidity and with the weather, there's so much texture. There's so much curly hair down here. So I couldn't think of a better place for me to get my personal experience, but also a good business experience too.
It's funny you say that because like both of our hair in this, because she's from Philly, so the humidity, like my hair was in shock for 3 years. It took forever for it to get used to the transition. Can you talk a little bit about the scientific or the hair side of things as to like porosity or anything with hair, why humidity is such like a factor?
Yeah, so you know, humidity is aka moisture. And when moisture hits our hair, when we have texture, it makes it swell or it makes it shrink. And all depending on how you style your hair and how you like it, that could be a problem for someone who wants to rock, you know, the maximum length that they have. As a West Coast girl like you, I'm sure, you know, there's no humidity there. So you're able to maintain hairstyles and not think about it. But out here in Miami, hair is definitely an issue, and you really have to address it. I mean, if you want to rock it a particular way. If you want to go free-form fro, or if you want, you know, to rock the bigness of it, then you're good down here. But if you want some kind of control, you got to line up with the right products. You know, you might have to do a little prep in the evening, and then you also have to embrace the unknown because you don't know if it's going to rain, you don't know if it's going to be super humid, and the summer's here.
I know joke. The summer, the spring, the fall, everything is no joke because, like you said, you could walk outside and it's raining, and even though it stopped raining or it has stopped raining, your hair can puff up just because it was previously raining. It's like, I don't have time for this. Like, I just went to get my hair done. I went to the Dominicans, and now my hair's puffing up. So a lot of people I've seen are going more for the natural look. How did that start for you? Were you always going for the natural look, or did you transitioning into that for this reason of not wanting to do your hair or
Yeah.
or having a perm and stuff.
Yeah, so I love straight hair. My mother's Japanese, so her hair was long and straight. And she's actually a Buddhist monk now, so her hair is shaved.
Oh wow.
But growing up, I saw this Japanese woman. We grew up in an all-black neighborhood. But in my house, my mother had this long black hair, so I always wanted long black hair. So by the time we were able to get relaxers, and we called them perms, I was first in line. And I did that all the way up to maybe my late 20s. And then I got pregnant, and then I had my son. And I was a hairstylist by that time, and my son splashed all around at bath time, so I could no longer maintain my hair in a straight style. And I was doing hair in the house, so I would give him baths on the 4th floor, and then I'd come down to the 2nd floor and do hair. So I didn't have that time to get it together. So my clients had to see my hair for whatever it was, and surprisingly, people said, "How did you get your hair like that?" And I'm like what? And then that was my opportunity, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to become, a natural hair, curly, kinky, wavy hair specialist." And before you know it, we started mixing products. And when I say we, I'm talking about my sister, Titi Branch.
Titi. Now, you did hair.
Yes.
Did she do hair as well?
So in the early days, Titi did not do hair, but she did everything to support me doing hair. But then Titi became this great hairstylist. And she became a hairstylist out of necessity. I don't know if you guys know anything about running a business, but sometimes you can't rely on your employees. Sometimes your stylist is not coming to work, your assistant, and you still have clients, and you got to make it happen. So Titi did learn how to become a good hairstylist.
Oh, wow.
Did she go to school for it, or she just...
I went to school. Titi ended up going to barber school, and thank God there was some grace in barber school in that, you can be a natural hairstylist. There was a little bit of play there, so she was able to get her licensing and help me and just become, a good stylist.
Now, we talked about natural hair, and then we talked about like having a relaxer or a perm. Most people think that if you wear your hair natural, it's an easy process. Can you let them know that it's not the easiest process? For me, it's more work for me to do my hair naturally than it is to go get a weave or do straight. It's just, if that's the look I want, then that's what I'm going for. But I tried it, and I thought I could just wet my hair, put some conditioner in and go outside. It did not work like that. It was cute for 5 minutes. And then it was over.
So here's the truth about natural hair. If you want to rock your hair and it's, in its natural free-form fro, or if you want to get a shortcut, then it is wash and go. It is, just do what you do.
But the curls.
Yeah, but if you want, if you have any length, or if you want to manipulate the curl and you want to make the curl unlike what God gave you, then that's where the time comes in. So if you embrace exactly what God gave you and you just let it do it, you're fine. If you want to manipulate, if you want to enhance your curl, if you want to add more products, if you have a lot of hair, you definitely have to spend the time in it. So to answer your question, natural hair is a lot of work, from the combing to the washing to the conditioning to the styling to the drying. But you know what? Many of us feel that it's worth it because you get the density you need. You can style your hair straight if you want to. You could wear a weave, you could wear braids, but just having that strength in your hair has become important to us. And then also socially, when I look at you I'm seeing more texture. So I don't feel like I'm the only one, or I'm an outcast because I'm wearing my hair sometimes unkept. I'm seeing it more, and it's preferred versus before it was kind of like, oh, I didn't do my hair.
Oh, I know.
So,
and
that's
I've
a beautiful
that
thing to see.
No, especially like with men, I think they're starting to get used to the natural tresses, and I think curly hair was always like, people were in awe of it, but they didn't know to like they can accomplish it or to embrace their own curly hair.
Right.
I know growing up, I would get compliments, but because to me it was harder to upkeep, I'd be like, well, I like my hair straight, but now I just love it curly.
Oh yeah, and I think when particularly men, when they see more of us wearing our hair in its textured state, and once we get compliments, we get that inspiration, and each one can teach one.
Yes.
If you like this style, this is how you do it. And I think it just word is spreading, and now we're here. Girls is together.
So your product is in Target.
Yes.
Now, I noticed maybe a couple years ago, Target embraced the natural hair care. So they have their own section where there's a box with your face on it.
Yes.
And all the other products that cater to natural hair. How was that process for you? And did they approach you, or was it something that you heard about and as a business owner said, I'm going to go for this market?
Yes.
How did that happen?
So my sister Titi and I, we were so busy doing hair in our brownstone in Brooklyn. We weren't very sophisticated. We didn't know how to get in front of Target or Walmart or Walgreens and shop our product. But luckily at the time in the early 2000s, before Target had this big section, my sister and I were making noise from our brownstone and that relaxer sales were down in Target. And I guess the Targets of the world wanted to know, where is this customer? And I guess with some research, they realized that this customer is now going natural. Not only is she going natural, she's spending a little bit more on her products. And that, from a business perspective, I imagine was attractive to Target. So then that's how Target contacted us.
Oh, okay.
We didn't know at the time why. We were just excited, that they did. But in looking back, they contacted us for, a very important business reason. And now, as you see, the categories expanded, and there's, so many Miko and Titis of the world on the shelves next to us.
Yeah.
So they came knocking at your door.
Yes.
What were you doing prior to get their attention?
We were doing great hair, and thank God for the internet in that, when we saw, if we were to style your hair, we would take a picture before and after, and we would put it up on our website, and then it would go, right when the word viral became a word, that's when Titi and I were posting up pictures. So what would happen is we would do great work, and then eventually we took to our kitchen table and we started mixing our own product.
Okay.
So over time, as they were, where's this customer? And then after research, they realized, oh my God, I have to get together with these girls. So it was a process. And then also, very early on, when we got our products going and we were selling them in the salon, we decided with our last little bit of money, we're going to invest in PR. So what PR did for us is it put us in the magazines of Marie Claire, Oprah Magazine, Elle, those kinds of publications. So while we were doing here in our house, in the hood, we would also get that visibility where we needed it. So I think that was a great investment.
And you said you were making those products in your home.
Yes.
At what point or when did you make that decision? Like, whose hair was it? And like, when did you say, okay, I need a product that's going to get through these kinks and curls?
Absolutely. So in the early 2000s, when there were no Miss Jessies of the world, I decided, oh my God, I'm going to become this natural hairstylist, or I'm going to do curly, kinky, and wavy hair. But all the products in the market, they were either too hard, they were too greasy, they were too soft. There was always something that we didn't like. So what Titi and I did is we took products that were on the market, mixed it with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then we created our own thing. And then eventually, once we got it right, and it was actually Titi who got it right, because she woke me up 3 o'clock in the morning and showed me what we would all now know to be as curly pudding, that was the game changer. But we had to take to our kitchen table and make it because there wasn't anything like it at the time. And we had a mission, we needed a solution, so we had to make it ourselves.
And now that you say that, it does bring me back to when I would try to find stuff for my curls and everything was gel based.
Yes.
So your hair became crunchy, and like a lot of the girls I grew up with, even like mixed or anybody who had curly hair, it was like, oh, I crunch my hair. And I'm like, I don't like that. And what I appreciate about your products, it's like the curly pudding and the pillow soft. You can still have a defined curl, but it doesn't have to be crunchy.
Yeah, that's very important. Curly hair, there's so many nuances to it, and just understanding what all those nuances are is really important. And we learned a lot of that in our salon, so that's an advantage that Miss Jessie has. We use our salon as our lab.
Do you still have your salon?
I do. So I moved here to Miami, but we still have our salon in Soho, New York. So once a month, I fly back to New York and I do hair.
Okay.
And I do it because I love it. It keeps my hand in it, and I get a chance to sample and test products.
That's amazing.
I wonder, how do you get on your client list?
Do you have, how is that?
It's like like you only once a month, so you have to wait a month to get my hair done?
I'm there once a month, but I have a staff, so we service people, you know, all month long. I'm just there once a month.
But they want you to touch their hair.
They do.
Sure.
But, you know, I've been blessed enough to have staff that's been with me for years, so people feel like they're getting a piece of me when they're working with my staff.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Do you plan on opening a salon in Miami?
That's a good question. So first things first, you know, my product company, because it's the larger company, we had to move that here. And actually I closed my New York office down and put my operations here. So that's, you know, we're still settling. But then after we get settled, it's something for me to consider. It's hard for me to look at all these ladies with this textured hair and not offer them, you know, a styling solution. I mean, it's something that's in my heart, you know, and it's something I'd like to share. So let's look out for Miss Jessie.
Yes, I think that would be a major game changer. I don't see many salons catering to curly hair. Right. It's mainly blowouts.
Yes.
Especially with the Latin market, everything is blowout, blowout, blowout.
I'm like, but blowout don't work in South Florida.
Not all the time.
You know, I spent $60. I spent $150, and I spent $200. They even got the it's not a press. It's I can't remember. I don't remember what it's called, but it's it makes your hair like super straight.
Right.
Keratin.
Oh yeah.
Keratin treatment. Didn't work. Didn't last. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't have time for this, and I don't have the money for this.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the chop process?
Yes, so there's transitioning and then there's also the big chop. And for people who want to take it slow, they transition into, you know, their natural hair. Transitioning can be a bit challenging because at the shorter length, you know what you're dealing with.
Right.
But as your hair starts growing longer and you start getting more new growth and then your straight ends are so different, your challenge is that you want to make two textures that are dissimilar, similar. That's like the biggest challenge. So you have to double strand twist, or you might have to rod set. And sometimes what women do is they do protective styling just to take their mind off that whole situation, you know. And then, you know, once you take out your braids or your weave or whatever you want to do, you're blessed with all this new growth, and then now you're able to make decisions. And I think it's fair to say many of us who have curly hair, we like length. We just do, you know, so protective styling is a way for you to grow your hair. By the time you know it, you'll have enough to work with, and then you can do your big chop.
But it's important though with protective styling that you have someone who knows how to like sew in, because I've seen a lot of people with their edges
Gone.
and I'm like, that's not protecting your hair.
That totally broke your edges off.
Yeah, our hair, you know, I don't think many people know this, but our hair, although it's very textured and very tightly coiled, it's very fragile, you know, so many of us believe that our hair doesn't grow, but it's not that our hair doesn't grow. Our hair tends to break very easily. So if you imagine combing through your hair, you have a lot of kinks or tangles. Just that combing process could break your hair off.
Gosh.
We just have to work in sections and just moisturize.
About that.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get through it.
Well, I was taught to start at the bottom and work your way
up
in sections, because if you think about it, you start from the top down, you're going to get kinked somewhere.
Yes, you will.
And it's going to hurt.
Yeah, yes, you will. You're going to break off a lot of your hair, and that physical combing, it creates damage. So you just have to handle our hair with care.
So I can tell like education is a big part of your brand and Miss Jessie's, because you know, just knowing about hair, but also being able to address what women want. You would need to be able to speak to that education of our hair.
Absolutely, and during the time that my sister and I first came out with our products, it was during a time when many women were still relaxing their hair. So now, over a decade later, I'm able to encounter, you know, ladies like you who are embracing your curls. But Titi and I had the challenge of creating product and creating a market for a market that wasn't there. So, you know, a lot of hard work put into that, but I think it was well worth it, because I think many women find the value of being natural.
I agree.
Listen, I haven't had a perm. Like, I've been natural for over 10 years. But as far as like wearing my hair in its natural curly state,
Yes.
haven't mastered that yet.
Okay.
But now that you're here,
Yeah.
you know, We'll be calling
get
you.
a little help. So let's go into the book.
Yes.
So creating a successful business from scratch naturally. Now, we've heard you speak about your sister, and I have done some research, and I see that you are very transparent because you're very passionate about the cause of, your sister's passing, which is very heartening for a lot of people to know, because some of us don't like to open up about those things. So, your sister founded the business with you, and I know she was a big part, and that's, of course, your sister. Can you touch on a little bit about not only the bond you had with her, but, what happened a little bit?
Yeah, so my sister was many things at one time, and Titi performed at very high levels in a lot of different areas. So over the years, I've heard it said that people who operate at very high levels, they get challenged in other areas. So Titi had a combination of smarts, kindness, wit, and she was also physically beautiful. And I know many women, including myself, who just wants one of those attributes. So, the question is how is this, woman or, human being on this planet, who possesses all that she has, what could possibly be her challenge? That was my question, about my sister. But my sister was challenged with depression. She suffered, and she was mentally ill. And, as I've learned along the way, being mentally ill is it's a disease, and it's like having cancer. It's something that maybe you're born with, maybe you develop it, but once it kicks in, it certainly takes life on its own, and it's a challenge for the person. So whether you're beautiful, whether you're smart, whether you're caring, you certainly have to face off with this thing that's happening. And the thing that's happening, called mental illness, it's different from person to person. So eventually, Titi, she passed away in 2014, and I actually wasn't there when she passed away, so I'm not really sure what happened in the moment of her death, but I am sure that Titi suffered, and she battled with her depression. And Titi battled alone because our family wasn't very knowledgeable. We were quite ignorant, and I can honestly say we weren't very supportive of Titi. Titi was so strong in many areas. We're like, what could possibly be wrong?
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, I recently lost a sorority sister from the same thing, and it's like she too was one person that strived to be great at everything, was physically beautiful, and you look and you say, like, how do you not know sometimes, and people go through these things and they have these issues and they try to hide it because it's also that demon is a part of their race to being great, that they don't want to show that. It's like, did you ever think to yourself, like, how was it that I didn't see any signs or anything like that? Because you said, like, people are ignorant to the signs or what they show. Is like, did you ever think about, like, well, what could I have done anything, or how do you stop yourself from feeling that way? Like, why didn't I say anything, or why didn't I look at that? Because that's what we tend to do after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, your hindsight definitely is 20/20. And I think for me, with Titi's mental illness and her depression, it went in stages. So there were times when I saw that she was really down and really blue and really just not functioning well. She slept a lot. So in those, in those situations, I was able to carry on the day-to-day operations at Miss Jessie's while my sister simply slept. She just didn't have the energy. So in those kinds of, situations, I was able to be there for her. And then I would able, listen to her and hear what she's saying. But then on the other hand, Titi would wake up and just do the greatest thing or deliver the greatest speech or, broker the greatest deal. So in my mind, oh, she's back. She's good. Yeah. So she was able to flip-flop between feeling what she was feeling in her challenges and then also performing at very high levels. But yes, after the fact, it's definitely, you definitely ask yourself, what more could I? Yeah. And then also Titi and I were experiencing like a very normal sisterhood, so we worked together, we co-parented together, we were great friends, but we were also sisters, so we fought. We did all the normal things that sisters do. So intertwined and all of that, I think it just gets a little complicated and a little hard to identify. This is that, and this is not a fight. Or this is, this is her feeling blue. So maybe I say, "Oh, why are you being mean to me today, Titi?" It could, maybe in, looking back, maybe it wasn't. Oh, she's just being, mean to her sister. Maybe she just wasn't feeling great. So. Spending a lot of my time now, you're right, looking back and seeing, well, what was this and what was that?
And that's the thing, like, also our culture could be a little bit ignorant about the mental illness, or mental illness in itself, where we don't think it happens to us, or it doesn't happen to our family, or it's not a thing that this culture of African Americans go through. Mm-hmm. So we kind of ignore it, and it's just like, right now it's prevalent. A lot of this generation, a lot of people coming up are depressed. They go through it, and they go through it at a severe state because they're showing it on social media, or they're more knowledgeable about it. How do you think your product makes a girl feel, like she's beautiful and she can get through certain things? Because
I think the story behind the product would probably.
Yeah. I think that your perspective and your understanding on the mission of Miss Jessie's is spot on. And I think that the work Titi did while she was here, without maybe her even knowing it, lent to building the self-esteem, particularly to females, women, girls, to build that up. So maybe if you look good, or maybe if when you look in the mirror, that might make you in turn feel good. I don't know if Titi understood the contribution she was making to a huge, to a large group of people. Maybe that feeling good might have saved a life, just in the making of Miss Jessie's. I do think after Titi's death, that message of mental illness, depression, and awareness, particularly to us, I think it's obvious now. And so the combination of Titi's goodwill while she was on this planet, and then also Titi's message, and her story, in her death, I think that combination speaks very, very directly to us. Titi looked like us, she talked like us. She experienced many of the things in the same way we experience, so we can relate to Titi Branch.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's such a great message and a story, and I really appreciate how transparent you are about it, because again, just understanding the founding of it, the life of your sister, we all didn't get to meet your sister and experience that, so very appreciative of you being able to share that with the rest of us.
And also applaud you for carrying her with you as you go. You know, like some people, once they go, people like let it, simmer, but you make sure that everything that you say has her in it, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a natural flow for me. My sister, we were latchkey kids, and my mom had us when she was pretty young. So Titi became my mother in a way. At the same time, she was my best friend. And we were fortunate enough to spend so many years together, over 4 decades. So, when you're looking at me, you're also looking at Titi Branch, because I am her. And she taught me so much. And I, instead of focusing on her passing, I really pay attention to, I had a wonderful opportunity to be with this great, great woman. And I just feel like I'm blessed.
Amazing. Yes. All right. Well, what's next for Miss Jessie's? We know you're in South Florida. Yeah. We know there may maybe salon, something.
Or
but
me on your claims.
Any new product or any other, for you, I know you're probably being asked to speak at many things. I see you booked a lot to be on panels and stuff. What's next for you?
So, yes, definitely speaking, this book, there's still some stories to tell, and I'm proud to tell. But we are a hair care company. Titi and I built a wonderful legacy together, and we make hair products. So this year, 2018, we are debuting 5 new products. We have a scalp oil, hair and scalp oil, called Miss Jessie's Grow Strong Mafora Oil, and we have a really fun product called Hold Me Down. Hold Me Down is excellent because when we're talking about edges and we're talking about finishing and styling, we definitely need, the stuff that works. Miss Jessie has what you need.
Nice.
Hold Me Down is also wonderful because, it's very descriptive in what it does, but it also, it's a message that we need to hear amongst women. I do need you to hold me down. We need to hold one another down. And we're seeing more of that. This seems to be a year of the woman, And then we have, a Curl Refresh spray. That one is a very fun one. That's called Curl So Fresh. And we have Gloss So Good, which is shine spray. And I think I said
that's 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's exciting.
Throw out there maybe Miss Jessie's school.
Miss Jessie's school would be good. I think the question would be, what would we focus on? We can certainly focus on hair care, but then there's a message about, wellness. There's a message about mental health, So, maybe we would do a little bit of
something.
Oh, she's on the plug your service. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And your book is available on Amazon?
It's available on Amazon, but I am, we are still 100% owned for us, by us.
Okay.
So I would like if you guys support Miss Jesse's and buy Miss Jesse's directly from us. It would be a great help to
That's
a privately owned
amazing.
business.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's definitely amazing. Like
Mm-hmm.
to sustain. And has anyone tried to buy you out?
Yes, so it's not uncommon. We get quite a few calls, and this has been going on for years. And I think once people recognize that you have a business that is a viable business and people want it, it's not uncommon for you to get calls. I think, for what I've seen over the years, I think there might be a misconception or misunderstanding about selling your business. And, for some of us who are employees, we work up to a certain age and then we retire. And I think for an entrepreneur, maybe their end game, it looks different ways for different people, but maybe selling your company might be a form of retirement for some, entrepreneurs. And then, there's a dilemma about partnering with investors and selling out. That's been a challenge. And I can understand why, because we're probably just now, as a group, as a whole, we're seeing more of our businesses emerge. So I think that's just maybe us wanting to. So, yes, we're still owned 100%. And when I say we, I include Titi because she's here with me. And I'm very proud of that because it's such a difficult feat to be able to self-fund yourself, particularly for two girls who didn't have money when we started our business. We had to create the capital to build our business. But that was the beginning days, which was very, very challenging. But to sustain that over the years, I'm feeling very proud.
Yeah,
No,
you should.
Can you run us through like a day with Miko?
Okay.
From start to finish.
So, luckily, God has blessed me with a few talents, and I've become a really good multitasker. So, it's not uncommon for me to promote my book because now I'm an author. And it's also not uncommon for me to do hair at Miss Jessie's Salon in Soho, New York. And I still go to the office and I still work very closely with my staff. We actually have a very small staff. I feel like we seem bigger, but we're actually very small. And the reason why I like it small is because my sister Titi and I realized having a manageable business is very important. You're able to know where everything is, and you're able to react very quickly in the event that something happens. So being able to know the ins and outs of your business has been a benefit to us. But I'm an early bird, so I wake up around maybe 5 or 6 in the morning. My mind and my thoughts are clearest first thing in the morning, so I try to make decisions in the morning. And then I check emails with a handheld. I'm always on my phone. And then probably around 10 or 11, I head to the office, meet with my staff. And then if I have an event or an interview, I go off from there. If I have to go do hair, I do that. And then I try to end my day around 5 o'clock, probably around 6. And once I go home, it's Miko time.
Oh, that's important. To have your own time, especially as an entrepreneur, because we hear a lot of messages that you have to work 24/7. And I get it, when you're building a business, that might be a little different. But I think it's still important to have some time to yourself.
Right.
It is. It's very important, and particularly as an entrepreneur, you are on your job 24/7. And even though I reference Miko time, with my phone, I'm looking, I'm always plugged in, but I have been making an effort to do me because I realize that life is short, and there's no amount of money that could take the place of good health and happiness. So I've made a concerted effort, to keep a smile on my face and surround myself around people that I love and who love me. So I'm able to work and also enjoy, the fruits of my labor.
Amazing.
That's one of the best messages we've heard as far as like, don't forget to take time out for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So in addition to time to yourself, for anyone that is listening or watching and are thinking about, starting something for themselves or for a business, what advice would you give to someone that is trying to do something like that?
Well, I'm a believer in the doing of it, so now we have tools like the internet where you can do research, you can go crazy at research. But after you gather your information and, you may have a mentor, you may want to talk with someone, I really encourage you to do it because there's so much wisdom in the doing of it. And in doing it, don't be afraid to fail because failure is going to be, a wonderful teaching tool for you. There's a lot of teachable lessons in the doing of it. So embrace the failure, use it as your stepping stone for the next time and the next go around. Just do it better.
Okay, amazing. All right.
I'm over
You
here.
inspired?
Very
With
much
your hair too?
I know, right? I'll take this out. Print my curls.
So how can people follow your movement? Obviously your product is available for purchase, but can you plug some of the websites, your
social media?
Social media?
So we're MissJessies.com, and that's pretty simple, MissJessies. But we're on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I think that's it right now. That's Miss MISS_JESSIES. And then I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm simply Miko Branch, and I do talk back if you talk to me.
Yes, she does.
She likes and she talks.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, we thank you for coming through.
Thanks so much for having me, ladies.
No
This
problem.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Good. All right. Thank you.